friends, and welcome to the Blizzard Watch podcast. I am your host today, Liz Harper, and I am joined by two lovely co-hosts. Matt is unfortunately out today, which is why you get to hear me. Yay! Joe Perez is here with me, and Phil Ulrich, our occasional guest host. There's kind of a struggle about which guest host is going to get like the official top billing on the show. I said they had to fight it out, but there have not been any fights yet, so that's a little disappointing from the drama angle. But here you both are.
Listen, all we need to do is make sure that they take it to the Beyblade Arena, and we'll figure out the winner is from there. Safe for everybody.
I think that's what we'd have to resort to, because otherwise we're just going to be entirely too nice at each other. Oh no, you can be on the podcast tonight. It's fine.
Yeah, we did have that tonight because it was like, okay, Corey could be here, but then Corey backed out at the last minute, and then I said, Liz and Phil, you fight it out, and Liz is like, oh no, Phil can do it, and
she's like, I've been on the last three, and I'm like, I'll do it if Liz wants a night off.
So sometimes it's hard to get volunteers because everyone's like, oh no, you can do this. Anyway, we do have a whole pile of Warcraft news and Diablo news and a little bit of other news. So I guess we should get to it. That's kind of why we're all here.
Podcast.
Okay. Yes.
Yep.
So World of Warcraft right now is in the middle of this sort of massive event schedule that's going on right now. We have the Lunar Festival continuing until February 11th. We have Love in the Air, which just started, continuing through February 17th. And we still have Turbulent Timeways and Plunderstorm going on. And it's feeling like a busy time in World of Warcraft. Are either of you two doing any of these events? Are you keeping up with these events?
Not the Lunar Festival. I don't know. I fell off of it one year and just never picked it up. And I'm too lazy to go do it now. However, the Love is in the Air thing, I will probably do on at least my alts, or at least my paladin, because I've been having a ton of fun with that. And also because the new mount is just a recolor of the new broom, which I really, really like. Which you can go look at this month's rewards in the traders, for traders attendees, if you want to take a look at what the broom looks like and just imagine it a little more pink.
Yes. So there, as you have said, there's a new mount this year, the Love Witch's Sweeper, which you get in the exact same way that you get the X45 Heartbreaker, which is continuing to break hearts this year. It theoretically exists, but it's theoretical.
It's Schrodinger's mount.
This mount actually feels like an apology for the X45 because the drop rate on it seems to be extremely
significantly higher.
Most people are reporting getting it the first time they do the event. I think we had one single guildmate who didn't get lucky and get it the first time, and he probably got it today on his second try. I got it on my first try, which means I'm now done with Love Is in the Air unless I want to try to earn some of the other new stuff like the new pet or the new shoulder transmog ensemble. I'm done with the Crown Chemical Company though, so because I do have Schrodinger's mount. I won it a year or two ago.
Don't worry. I will carry that torch of not getting the thing I want, as is the way. Staring at you, Dark Shaman Transmog, that took 432 days to get.
So I am one of those people. I have done the Crown Company event once and did not get a mount. So. But yes, it's the Love Witch's Sweeper, which is a broom / motorcycle. Pretty cool. Very pink.
It's very weird looking, but I love it.
That is the new reward this year. And as Joe said, there is a similar recolor on the trading post. So this is continuing as it did last year. You have a significantly increased chance to get these mounts on your first kill of the day, and either a significantly lower chance or no chance to get them on subsequent kills on alts. I know it used to be a thing where it's like you would run through every single alt you had until you were exhausted, and you would do that every day and not get them out. Yeah, you can run it once a day, and that's going to be your best chance. It's not worth running on 27 alts. So that's something.
Mm-hmm. So good luck to both of you.
The thing is, I'm not going to be bothered. I gave up. I've never been really set on getting the Heartbreaker. It's like, yeah, it's there, whatever. And so I've never been disappointed to not have it. I can ignore this event and not feel bad. I just tell myself, I don't need this. I don't need this in my life. It's okay. It's totally fine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, okay, keep telling yourself that. As I alluded to, though, there is a new transmog ensemble, and I need this because it's this funny little ensemble. You may remember last year they had the Love Witch outfit, the nice white and pink and gold one with the floppy hat and the skirt and the cool, like Sailor Moon-esque attire to it. This year, there is a new transmog ensemble you can buy for those love tokens that provides 2 alternate shoulder pieces to the gigantic shoulders that one had. A sort of like a more inlaid shoulder pauldron with a heart emblem on it, and also a shoulder cape with a heart brooch. And that is available as an ensemble. Buy one, get both. I'm looking forward to that.
I mean, that does mean you could have like a classic shoulder on one side and then your shoulder cape on the other, and they kind of match. You've got the right colors, you've got the right heart scheme, so it's a cool idea. I'm going to have to see if I can get it to work with any transmogs, because I'm currently playing a dragon, and I go to the login screen and I look at all my characters. They have such cool transmogs, and then there's a dragon with a belt that doesn't match their armor, and I have to click that dragon and log in, and I feel kind of bad about it. Yeah, that's... Come on, Blizzard, just let my evoker stay in visage form. I would be totally cool with that, but no, I have to be a dragon.
That's true. I've got the
mismatched armor.
I've got the Drakthir and other class privilege where I only have to switch into my dragon form for combat or using Soar. We apparently did not mention previously that there is a new mount for the Lunar Festival, and this one is very...
That is true.
It's very cool. It's the classic red Wowhead style logo style rocket, except it's also cosplaying as a dragon. So it's got like a dragon head around a rocket and is available for 75 coins of ancestry. Check your banks, because those things don't go away after the holiday. You might just have some sitting around on an alt from flying around leveling up by talking to ancestors. I need to rummage through my bank and see if I have enough to get that on anybody, because that's a cool rocket.
I will say one snag is that the coins of ancestry are soulbound, so you can't just collect some and pool them from all of your alts. There are also, and we did talk about this a little last week, there are new ancestors throughout Khazalgar, so it'll help you get these a little faster. But 75 coins of ancestry isn't bad. Spend a few hours just going from flight path to flight path while you're doing something else. This is not a big challenge. There's no drop rates to worry about. And you got about a week to do it. So I'd say the only problem here is that there's too much going on just like right now. It's a lot.
Nobody can ever say that there's not enough to do inside of this game.
No,
that's true.
There's so much, and I mean that's also nice, because that's also how you get traders tenders, and there are twice the traders. There's 1,500 up for grabs this month instead of the usual 1,000 traders tenders, and so much stuff they had to have a whole extra vendor. On top of the regular monthly offerings, there is also a new vendor just down the road from them in Dornegal with extra returning stuff, including a bunch of the mounts. If you've missed any of those.
I have to tell you, it's not one vendor, it is 4 vendors.
Oh no, there's ones I haven't even found yet.
Well, if you keep walking down that row, it's like there's a vendor for transmog, there's a vendor for weapons, there's a vendor for mounts, there's a vendor for toys. There's like one vendor per category of item. So there's a lot of old items. This is the Trading Post's 2nd anniversary, so they brought a bunch of old items back. Those old items are now discounted. So you may have a little easier time collecting all of this, but also it is a lot to collect. I think there's a lot of cool stuff here, which is that's how it is. Some Trading Posts, it's like I see them and I'm like, I can sit out this month. It's whatever. But this one has a lot of cool stuff, and it's so much. There's so much here. Joe, were you digging into the Trading Post this month? Have you looked at what's available?
I have. There wasn't a whole lot that actually tickled my fancy, aside from just getting the mount, because I'm a sucker for mounts. But otherwise, nothing really this month seemed to stand out to me.
Some months are like that.
Yeah, which is okay.
Yeah, like I wasn't real thrilled the month that we had the yellow recolor of the Plunderstorm stuff, but that just meant I had like 900 tenders for the next month.
Yeah, I did not buy that. I'm like, when am I gonna... There's nothing else in the game that's gonna match this with this yellow color, and...
It's like a weird raincoat.
I guess I'm just not a yellow person. So yeah, I skipped that one too. There's also a kind of weird fox creature that stands on its hind legs. I think they're cute, but there's something a little creepy about them. I don't know.
Listen, I have seen the original Creep Show. I do not trust creatures in boxes.
You shouldn't. Here's a fun trick, by the way, that still works. Remember the creepy crate? Take it to Ouroboros and pull it out near the Flight Master. Thank me later.
Noted.
It will eat the worms. Remember how it shows you the worms nearby that you ride from area to area in Shadowlands?
Yes.
They're flagged as critters, so the creepy crate will eat them.
Oh no!
It's very funny to watch people freak out about. Probably not as much now that there's not as much traffic in Ouroboros, but.
So if you are having trouble getting enough Trader's Tender for this month because there is so much to buy, well, Blizzard is here to help. Maybe in that there is a new shop bundle you can buy that features 2 broom remount recolors. So if you love that broom and you need it in a couple of other variations, 2 of them, and 600 Trader's Tender, which I feel like when they first launched the trading post and announced Trader's Tender, there was kind of a fear that they were just going to sell this for cash and it would become another, monetization thing. And yeah, it has.
Yeah, I've noticed it mostly seems to be like one-time rewards now, or they'll put it in a bundle. They're like, hey, here's these other 2 things, and also 500 tenders just to sweeten the deal in case you weren't already thinking to buy in our cash shop stuff.
So, yes, it is 2 brooms and 600 Trader's Tender for $30, which, as far as on a scale of mounts purchases, that is a good price if you were into that sort of thing. But also, it's like, man, there's just so much stuff out there to buy.
Better than the Diablo 4 cash shop, at least.
Yeah. Compared to the Diablo 4 cash, this is so reasonable. So it depends on what kind of scale you're going on as to whether this is a reasonable amount of money. But if you love that room and you need to have it in every color, that is an option for you. Super exciting. So I have here this note about the Delves in Season 2. I actually have not read about what's changing in Delves in Season 2, other than the fact that we are sticking with Bran. Woohoo! Phil, what's going on here?
Bran is going to be leveling up as high as you are, for one thing. His level cap will be going up to 80 now.
Ooh.
And you won't have to re-level him, Bran. Whatever level Bran is at right now, he's going to keep it going into Season 2.
That's
but
good.
The more important part is that this is a lot of changes around rewards in Season 2. Blizzard is committed to kind of both propping up Delves as the solo player, world content player, end game activity of choice, and also making it more rewarding for players who dip into it from other activities. So just to run down it, instead of just randomly being able to do high level Delves and get a tier 4 curio, little things that increase Bran's power, now whenever you get a curio upgrade, they'll always be upgraded by 1, but in exchange they will now they can also be obtained at the end of Delves, and if you're using one of those coffer keys, you will always get a curio drop. So it'll take a little longer to upgrade Bran's new set of curios, but you're guaranteed to get drops at a more steady rate. Also, the maps you used to have to kind of luck into that would get you an extra good chest at the end of a heroic level 2 at the end of a delve. Those now have kind of a bad luck protection system.
Nice.
The more delves you do, you're pretty much guaranteed to get 1, but only 1 per week. You now have a max on it. They've changed the system up from where the big bad boss used to have underlings in the dungeon. In certain high level delves, I believe in Season 1 you had to go 9 and above to see them, except for a part where they put them in 8s and they slaughtered everyone. And Zekvir's underlings would appear. It appears the big boss for Season 2 is the Underpin, and the Underpin's underlings now appear in like level 4 and up. But beating them gives you a new strongbox at the end that gets better for each group of the Underpin's underlings you beat, and that is hard to say, on your way through the delve, starting from 4. So it gives you a reason to actually engage with those hard groups that, most of the time you might just try to skirt around. And for the people who are dipping in from other content, if you're doing a tier 11 bountiful delve now, 3 times a week you get gilded crests at the end, which normally come from, it'll be Mythic 6 and up. It's Mythic 8 and up now, and Mythic rating. So this is another source of 21 gilded crests a week for everybody. So that's cool. And then there's some adjustments to smooth out item level progression that change like what item levels you get in the vault and things like that. So the details will be up on our site in a day or two, probably by the time people are listening to this. So,
most assuredly,
since we aren't streaming live tonight, it's a good chance.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, check out. We have a website, in case you didn't know that, blizzardwatch.com. You could check that out for more information on all of the things we are talking about, hopefully. And that's always the goal. Another thing we learned more about this week is the Undermine cartels. And I actually have a question for you here, Joe. I know you did a lore watch on kind of goblins a couple of weeks ago.
We did.
And I'm wondering, how much of this did we know about the cartels we're going to meet in Undermine?
All of it.
Okay. That's an easy answer.
Yeah, this isn't anything too spectacular for those of you that are listening at home. It was more of a here's who's in charge, here's where they're physically located, and here's what their cartels do. The only real big thing here is that the Blackwater cartel is now been the Prince Revelgaz is now a trade prince versus Baron Revelgaz, which is interesting, but they didn't really say much more about it. I'm very intrigued why it's a trade prince, but if I had to guess, it's because it is technically the only trade prince of the cartels. The rest of them, Monty Gazlo is not a trade prince. Marin Noggenfogger is not a trade prince. And then I think it's Grimla Fizzlecrank, if I remember correctly, for Venture Co.
Got it in one go.
That is correct.
Man, sometimes I remember stuff. Look at me go. She's also not a trade prince. So I think making Revelgaz a trade prince is really intriguing, because now that makes Revelgaz part of the old guard, where all the other ones are sort of like the new generation of goblins. So this is me reading into it. They literally said none of this in the release. But basically they just told us where we're going to go, where we're going to find them. And then they wound up going into like the rewards that you get from the renown from the cartels, at least a little bit. So nothing much, but nothing new. And maybe potentially some intriguing story elements hinted at based off of that change from Baron to Trade Prince. But only time will tell.
I wonder if maybe Baron Revelgaz wanted a new title, since it seems like the Blackwater are going legit now.
Well, that's
one thing I was
going to say, what makes it legit for a goblin, though? Because all the other ones are legit cartels with legitimate leaders. They are the 4 strongest cartels available of all of the goblins. They're recognized. They are legit as far as goblins are concerned. But the curious thing is, did he just earn enough money to become a trade prince? Or was Baron a working title that they changed now because they realized they needed a trade prince? Because technically Gallywix was the only trade prince we knew of still operational otherwise. So maybe he's supposed to be a good trade prince, which I'm air quoting that one.
Oh, I mostly meant in terms of legitimate business. They're not primarily piracy now. They are now in the shipping and luxury vacation industry.
Which in and of itself is in fact piracy.
One thing I did find interesting in these very tiny descriptions is for Venture Company, which it says Gimla Fizzlecrank manages their operations in the absence of a top goblin, implying that they do not have a real official leader. And I wonder if this is, kind of revising the Venture Company, because we have spent many years in World of Warcraft fighting the Venture Company, so much.
I think it's intentional, and I think that's just in line with the Venture Company, because the Venture Company has always been the most real world business analog in WoW that it could possibly be. Like their supervisors and managers and like overseers and that type of structure that we fought over the years, but it could not necessarily be that they have one single top. They could have a board of directors, or there could be one that is at the top. Because again, Grimla is a manager, or air quote manager, who apparently is in charge of running whatever the operation is for day-to-day stuff. She might actually just be the leader. It might be a level of obfuscation on a corporate level. Who knows? Goblins are fun like that.
Yeah, it's just interesting. We clearly see they're kind of taking a more friendly angle on the Blackwater with the totally legitimate business venture that they are in now. Yeah, maybe they're doing the same with a venture company. Yeah, mostly. I mean,
I don't know. The venture company description does include the quote: "You want nice? Find a book club. You want to build something. The venture company's got what you want." I like them. I'm interested in cozying up to them to find out what their deal is. So
there are yeah. Who has the best hat? That's the question. That's the beginning and end of this conversation.
That is the litmus.
So all of these have a renown track. You'll unlock different things for your car, your drive car in Undermine, and yes, it does kind of sound like a lot of grinding to me. So I'll see how it goes. I'm a very limited patience for repetitive tasks. So
I'm curious if they're going to do the renown shortcut like they did with the rest of them, which is you get that weekly quest, go do a task, get 2,500 rep or whatever the case is. Like, I wonder if they're going to do something similar here or add them to that as an option. Like, that'd be
the other thing.
I also noticed I didn't notice a bit about a fifth cartel. That's neat.
Yeah, which is interesting because the 4 cartels we know of are not the only cartels. There's a ton of them.
Yeah.
Most of the other cartels just kind of bubble up underneath the rest of them. But my guess is that the 5th cartel is probably somehow linked with Gallywix.
That makes sense.
So, because he's still operational. He's still running. He's still got it in charge and he's still in power. We just don't know how.
Yeah, he does have goblins with him in the raid from the Dark Fuse cartel, which I'm guessing are the remnants of the old Black Fuse company from Siege of Orgrimmar. That'll be interesting to see if maybe they come out leaderless and need an adventurer to help them shape up.
That sounds like a job for us.
And I believe that they're not actually the Dark Fuse cartel. I believe they are called Dark Fuse Solutions. Private contractors for security, I'm sure.
Goblins.
Yeah. The biggest thing that gives me pause about all of this is that it talks about each cartel's renown track, which could be that sounds like a long path with at least 4 cartels.
Well, no, you choose one to champion, I think, right? They're treating it like you're treating it like you did the factions in Shadowlands, right? You choose one, you go up to that track and you earn your rewards for it. Like, you choose who to align with. They've talked about that. So unless that changes, you pick one and you're with one.
Yeah, it's actually every week. It's more like Ashkahat. Which of these? Yeah, it says your experience will change within the Undermine depending on which one you choose every week. So this is even more just like the Ashkahat.
Yeah, there you go. Even better.
So yeah, you're switching between them, but there's a unique renown track for all of them. And there's one more than Ashkahet, so...
Yeah, it's fine.
There we go.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
I mean, it's got to be fine. It's coming out. We don't have a date for patch 11.1, but I think it's got to be soon. It's got to be in February. So we're probably going to see this go live in the next few weeks. It will be exciting. So I think, does anyone have any other Warcraft stuff to talk about that we don't have on our list?
It is that don't forget to do your time walking stuff too. If you're hunting the bee mount, I believe we're past the point of no return where if you have skipped out or just starting it. But if you've done others and maybe missed a week, you can still finish out and get your bee.
And if you've done everyone since the beginning, this week is when you get your bee. This is the 5th week.
Bee,
very
bee,
exciting.
Buzz. I can't wait.
But it's also an excellent way to get experience and level alts. So jump in. So yes, I guess we're going on to Diablo. Joe, I don't think you've been playing Diablo, but Phil and I have. I've been playing a lot. I don't know how much you've been playing, Phil.
I leveled so before this, I had not actually finished the Vessel of Hatred campaign. So I played a druid through the Vessel of Hatred campaign, got most of the way to cap, and I was like, I play a druid literally every season. I'm going to play something else. So I have a necromancer somewhere in the mid 30s on hard mode.
Weird.
I know, right? It's like necromancers are good or something.
I don't know who would play a necromancer. That's just
who would play a necromancer
wild
on this podcast? That's crazy.
So this week, patch 2.1.1 went live in Diablo 4, which, that sounds like patch is maybe a big deal, but Diablo 4, this is like the 5th patch we've had since the Season 7 started, which it's been out for about 2 weeks, I believe. And yes, we're already on bug fix patch 5 because they keep breaking things. Or they find things that are broken that were unanticipated, like the Hex of Whispers. I think I have the name wrong. One of the Hex abilities, which was self-replicating, could self-replicating and could crash the servers. Well, so they shut that off for a while and they fixed it. Last week, they shut off 2 more witchcraft powers due to bugs, the decay augmentation and the twilight warding, which twilight warding was a significant problem because it was causing some weird interactions that could result in players, especially hardcore, dying unintentionally. You hate to see it. But with the latest patch, let's see, twilight warding is back, or is it the other way around?
Twilight warding came back between the time we wrote the show notes and the time we recorded the show.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, they disabled the armory because it was crashing the game.
Yeah, and decay augmentation is still not working, though that's going to be the next hot fix, the next patch. We are already waiting for patch 2.1.2, which I hope it'll come out this week, because I know that's where a big fix for minion necromancers is coming in with the Ring of Mindlin, which is that's a big deal for the none of us here who play necromancers.
I know. I already had that on my list, so.
I have one equipped right now, and it's, if you are upgrading from not having it to having it and you play a minion build, it's strong, but it does not scale the way it's supposed to. It does not scale with minion power, and minions are scaling much better right now. So, except with this ring. So when that gets fixed, maybe I will finally start making more progress in the season journey, that's what we're all here for, because there's a raven pet at the end of the season journey, and gotta grind up there to get it. I'm thrilled about this. So, have you been enjoying the season, Phil?
Yeah, it reminds me. So I haven't really been super into the Diablo season since the vampire season. I thought that one was really, really well done. And this one, the headhunt zones feel like the vampire zones on steroids. Like, sometimes you get the vampire events and you kind of have to stand around and wait until somebody farmed enough blood to fill up those 3 little altars in the center, and then that would summon like 10 bosses in a row, and that was cool. With this one, it feels like the events are constantly spawning enemies and constantly doing events, and then you've got like 8 routes that you can pull up, and each of those has a chance of throwing up more bosses. Then everything drops loot, and loot is what Diablo is all about. I really enjoy this, and I think the witchcraft powers feel like a good throwback to that too, like the pick your cool powers and then upgrade them in the order you want and buy them from those altars. Yes, I'm really enjoying this season. So I'm really looking forward to them fixing some of it, I guess.
It is definitely a fun one. It is some of the fastest leveling Diablo 4 has ever had. So it's a good time to dip your toes into the game if you haven't tried it before, or if you've taken a few seasons off, because it's a lot of fun befriending witches, learning witchcraft. It's great. I still do not have my Piranado power, because that's a rare one that you've got to go out and find. But when I get it, oh boy, I'm going to have that thing equipped all the time and be surrounded by a cloud of vicious piranha. It's going to be great.
I think it's interesting that this one also, through the quests for the season, specifically funnels you through the Tree of Whispers, which was already a great way to level up really quickly if you skip the campaign and you're just doing seasonal content. Like this specifically, once you, and those bags have so much stuff in them now since the last time I did them, 4-5 seasons ago now. But like, you know, it wants you to do this content that already is extremely rewarding, and that I feel is a very good way for them to build a season. Like they've expanded on something that's already good to do anyway, which is, you know, as far as theme and content go, A+ Diablo team. If you can get the bugs worked out, great, probably the best season since 2, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Another thing that went live today is the Diablo 4 Lunar Awakening event, which I did one of the shrines today. It's basically you go and find shrines throughout the world, you activate the shrines, and when you activate them, you'll be gaining experience on an ancestral renown track from a vendor in Kedbardu, and you get stuff. Stuff is great. I love getting stuff. So it's pretty basic, but when you hit all of the shrines, they are super powered versions of themselves. You were talking about the Greed Shrine earlier, weren't you, Phil?
Yes, the Greed Shrine, which gives you a chance to spawn a treasure goblin as soon as you hit it, and every time you kill something, it spawns a treasure goblin. It's just wild. Does this event work for the shrines you find in dungeons?
It should, yes.
That's going to be crazy. Those are the ones that'll like spawn waves of enemies at you too.
So every shrine you find while the event is active, and it is active through, did I not write this down? Through February 18th, I believe? You have a couple of weeks to do it. Yes, through February 18th.
Okay.
So all shrines are now these awakened shrines. We did have Lunar Awakening last year, but between last year and this year, all of the shrines are more powerful. And I believe it was only some shrines were awakened shrines. Now all of them should be awakened shrines. So get out there, find those shrines.
Yeah. The shrines also give you a 100% XP bonus while activated now. So even faster leveling during the season of fast leveling.
Indeed. So I think it's a fun little event. But it does kind of depend on how many shrines there are. And I think they're all supposed to be awakened shrines now. But if they aren't all awakened shrines, that was kind of disappointing last time. You would find these other shrines and they're just, it's a shrine. Is it even worth clicking on?
This year they have stated that all shrines are replaced with lunar shrines, including the ones in Nahantu. So I guess that does apply to the ones in dungeons. And you'll know if you find it because they all have a cool snake appearance now for the Year of the Snake.
Indeed. So that is a cool new event if you're playing Diablo, and if you have not been playing Diablo, you can give it a try. You can zoom to max level. It is absolute zooming. That's all you can
say. Be like me and get overwhelmed by all these new systems. I'm like, what? Tempering? What?
Yeah, if you have not played in a while, they have really overworked. They've completely redone a lot of the base game systems. They've changed leveling. They've changed Paragon. They have changed how you upgrade gear. There's a pile of changes, and I think all of them are for the better, have helped streamline the game, make it more accessible, and give better sort of long-term upgrade paths. When the game first launched, there were like a couple of things to do at end game, and mostly it was repeating the same thing over and over and over again on higher difficulties. Like doing nightmare dungeons forever, and that was kind of your in-game activity. Now there's a much bigger variety of things to do that they've rolled out throughout the seasons and left in the base game. So it's a good time to play Diablo 4. It's also a slightly tiny bit of a buggy time to play Diablo 4, but here we are. It's still pretty great. So let's move on to Hearthstone, which I guess I probably have to talk about this. Hearthstone Battlegrounds. We're in the middle of a kind of weird battleground season because it's a weird season in that it's not weird. Usually a battleground season has some kind of new mechanic in it. They had trinkets, they had quests, they had buddies that you could recruit. The buddies were just super great. Just summon a friend to help you out that's super powerful. But this season doesn't have any of that. It's just plain old Hearthstone Battlegrounds, which is fine, but you kind of started expecting more from a season. The state of the meta is a little disappointing. A balance patch rolled out today, which is trying to power up some of the underpowered warbands to make it more balanced so you can go in and not get disappointed when it's like, oh yeah, I really wanted to do this, but I'm just not getting the cards. So should be better, but it's a little bit of a bland season. It's just kind of there. And the other thing that is super disappointing about this Hearthstone Battleground season is the rewards track. Every Battleground season has its own battle pass. Yay, I'm on record for being a real lover of battle passes, with a free and a paid rewards. And of course, the paid rewards involve a lot of extra cosmetics. This track, however, has a lot of cosmetics that are just like gray boxes with a description under them. They're like, reward to be announced later. And a lot of them are StarCraft themed, or the name suggests they're StarCraft themed. So you are expected to pay for this battle pass, and also you don't know what half of the rewards are. And I kind of expected, we knew they were going to do a StarCraft themed mini set this expansion, and since everything sounded StarCraft themed, I figured, when the mini set comes out, that's when they're going to announce all of these things and reveal them. So the mini set came out like 2 weeks ago, and the Battlegrounds reward track is still a bunch of gray, empty boxes. And it's feeling kind of disappointing this year. So I don't think either of you are Hearthstone players. Am I correct?
I have not played Hearthstone since Ben Brode was still on the team.
Which is fair. I do really enjoy Battlegrounds, but I just find I'm not reaching for it right now. It's not its best season, and the rewards are just what would you do in a There are definitely some rewards there, but half of them are not there. What would you do in a Diablo 4 season where the battle pass was like, this is grayed out, we're going to announce it later?
Yeah, it's like, you can earn this thing and come back and get it later.
Yeah, we're going to tell you what it is at some point in the future, and you're definitely going to love it. It just doesn't feel like a good way to go. Okay, moving on.
You better Hearthstone.
Yeah, I see, and this is so sad. I really enjoy Battlegrounds. I enjoy it, but I find I'm not playing it because it's a weird meta. It's a little bland feeling. And where are my rewards? I don't see any rewards. They're very exciting.
Where are the hats?
Where are my hats?
And sometimes they have, it's mostly hero skins and emotes, and sometimes they have such amazing themes. There are special animations for when you win a match, and I have a match-winning animation that is a bunch of corgis spawn on the play field, and they like bark and run across to where the other hero is, and that's how they're defeated. It makes me feel so good every time. But yeah, it feels kind of like a letdown this year. I don't know. Could it be that we'll get one of those, but with Zerglings? That would also be pretty cool. Not as cool as corgis, but pretty cool.
What about corgis and Zergling costumes?
Okay, that is actually, that would be the superior way to do that.
I would reinstall Hearthstone for that.
And I would buy the battle pass. I have not bought the paid battle pass because it's like,
Listen, Blizzard, this is me saying I can make you a ton of money. Just pay me to give you ideas like this. Let's go.
But I actually think we have made it through the majority of our news this week. I am going to go on with some site news, which is to say thank you for a couple of new supporters that have come up this week. Matthew, not our Matthew Rossi, but a different Matthew, has subscribed at $3. That gives you early access to these podcasts, the very podcast you were listening to. You could be listening to early and ads-free, as well as our exclusive pre-show. This week, we talked about a lot of video games and tabletop games that we are excited about, that we have been playing, or that we hope to play. So, you can get that. And Larry upgraded to $5. That gets you an ad-free site experience on BlizzardWatch.com, a website that we run, in case you were not aware of that one. We also have, I think I mentioned this, may have been in the pre-show, our Tavern Watch podcast, where we talk about tabletop gaming that used to be published on these podcast streams, but now it's its own thing. So you want to go to your podcast player of choice and subscribe to those guys if you want to get us talking about tabletop games. We have a lot of great games that we have been publishing, Sentai and Sensibility, which is just as crazy as it sounds. And we did a Starfinder 2E game running on the playtest. That was great fun. And we're just rolling out a D&D murder mystery, which I ran, and very early in the game, Matt just kind of upended the mystery. And it's funny because at the time he upended the mystery, I did not realize it. But later I'm like, this changes everything.
Yeah, it turned out it was a funny moment with a warning for explicit language that then turned out to be a huge deal. But
it turned out to be a huge story deal. Yes.
No plot survives first contact with the players.
No, it doesn't. And that's exactly what makes tabletop gaming. That's what makes tabletop gaming so interesting because, as a GM, you go in there with a plan. And you think you know what's going to happen. You usually don't. Players are going to come up with something to upend what you're doing. It doesn't matter. It's going to happen. So, if you want to hear these games, go search for Tavern Watch in your podcast player of choice. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. Wherever you want to listen to us, you can listen. Or you can subscribe to us on Patreon. Patreon.com/BlizzardWatch. $3 or more, you can get the podcast through Patreon, ads-free, and Blizzard Watch has a bonus pre-show before it. So, please listen to our podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, hopefully you will enjoy those podcasts as well. I also want to say, it's our birthday.
It is.
Did you two realize this?
Oh, wow.
It is our birthday this month.
Because it was the best birthday gift that I had received was when we stood up the site, and I was one of the first people on the docket to one, know that it was happening because it was the worst kept secret by Adam. He couldn't wait to tell me, and then I immediately got the ask, hey, do you want to do this? And I think it was like 30 seconds later of please, I want to be back. Let's go.
So, Blizzard Watch is 10 years old this year. It was 10 years ago that we had all been working at WoW Insider, some of us for a very long time, and AOL decided to shut down all of its gaming websites, which included us. And at the time, we didn't know if Blizzard Watch was going to work. I didn't know if Blizzard Watch was going to work. And because we were going out there in the dark, the guys were recording a Blizzard Watch podcast, like right after we got shut down. We had the site spun up and we're, getting posts up on it. We had no idea if anyone was going to come and support us because we had just been told by AOL, a huge company that runs tons of websites, that, no, actually your work is worthless. No one wants to read this crap. We're just going to shut all of it down. So we did not know that this site was going to last a day. And now it's lasted 10 years. And it really is thanks to all of you listeners, people who read the site, people who listen to this podcast, people who support us on Patreon. If you are able to support us on Patreon, please do. Any amount helps. It's a crowdfunding thing. A lot of people giving a little lets this site keep existing. So thank you to all of our supporters, old and new. I know there are some of you out there who have been supporting us since the beginning. Thank you so much. That's how we exist. And if you can support. If you can't support, I get it. But thank you, everyone, for listening. And now, questions. Joe, would you like to read questions? Because I have been talking for a whole lot.
Yeah, I will be more than happy to read questions. Friends, again, if you have questions for this or any of our podcasts, be sure to send those into podcast@blizzardwatch.com. Singular podcast. Specify the show that it is for in that subject line and give us any special pronunciation of your name. You can also go ahead and hit us up on our Discord. We have 2 channels set aside. The first one is the Q and Podcast Questions channel. Pretty self-explanatory. Same rules apply. And then we have one set aside for our Patreon subscribers. It's the Patreon Q and Podcast Questions channel. We tend to look there first as a way of saying thank you. Also, if you are a Patreon subscriber, you can send us direct information on Patreon, and one of the powers that be will make sure that they get to the proper show. Again, just make sure you tell us what show it's for, because if you don't, we're going to fight over it. And I'm way too lazy to do that constantly. But our first one is going to be coming from our friend Tetsemi, and I think this is appropriate since Phil is here. What is your favorite transmog look for video games, and what style does your favorite TTRPG character wear? And I'm going to start with Phil.
Favorite transmog look for video games? That one I'll come back to, although I will say I tend to put a lot of my characters, even ones that it doesn't make a lot of sense, like rogues. I tend to wear a lot of long robes because I don't like wearing pants and belts and tabards. So I tend to wear a lot of robes. But the other one, I will say a lot of my TTRPG characters are snappier dressers than I am. The two examples I will give, I'm currently in a Traveler game in real life where I'm playing a ex-noble / current acting lawyer named Fontaine Infinity. And Fontaine has a 3D printed mini of him in a very snappy suit and a silenced flechette pistol. And I believe that was pretty close to my previous favorite character was the warlock that I played when Liz ran Keys to the Golden Vault from us, where I made the perfect heist warlock in D&D 5e, Simon Fairplay. Simon, again, fairly snappy dresser, not in the full tailored suit, of course, because it was a D&D game, but did his best to look like a made man, and then stole things out of a vault by hiding inside his own ring. Yeah, so I'd say generally characters who are dapper and dress better than I do in real life because they can afford better tailors.
Liz?
I tend to prefer, in video games, I go for more tailored looks, which can be difficult because, there's a lot of I'm just gonna throw on whatever kind of armor I can find. And I don't like the look that's just throwing bones and more bones onto your armor, which is a little weird because in Diablo I do usually play a necromancer, and bones are kind of their whole aesthetic. So if you want to be a necromancer and not just wear a pile of bones, you kind of have to go searching through your transmog options. But in Warcraft you actually have a lot of different options depending on your armor type, and of course cosmetic armor has been great for this, giving you more options that do not make it look like you're wearing a giant heavy suit of mail, or that you have just disassembled a bunch of body parts and put them on yourself. Both of those things I like. So, probably all of my characters are snappier dressers than I am, because in a video game, you can be a snappy dresser. In a tabletop game, it's even easier to be a snappy dresser because you don't even have to go chase down the transmog armor. You just say, yeah, I'm wearing a perfectly pressed 3-piece suit. You don't have to go to the dry cleaners. You don't have to worry about keeping it clean. It's always perfect. So yeah, this is like the fantasy of never having to do laundry. It's great.
That sounds like a dream. For me, it's a little all over the place, and I'll start with transmog with World of Warcraft or video games in general. It depends on the season a lot, like what we're doing as far as like the game goes. Like in WoW, my transmog tends to be at least I try to keep it cohesive, and I try to keep it in theme with where we're currently at in the like story of the game, like what realm we're in or what we're fighting. Like how would my character dress to combat like the supreme heat of like the Undermire? Who I think about those types of things. Or I'm going to be in a deep dark hole in the ground. Maybe I should wear light colors so that my friends can find me and I might not get hit by a bat. Like little things like that. And I tend to do that with my characters almost universally, with very few exceptions. In every video game, it's like that. Doesn't matter what it is. Veilguard, I was doing the same thing. Oh, I'm going to the land of the dead. I need to adjust my costume here. I need to fit in. I need to make them feel comfortable because that's what I would do in real life. Things like that. So in tabletop games, I also do this thing where like I definitely skew towards the fancy dress. Because if I was in shape, that's what I would do. I have a whole closet full of clothes that I'm trying to get back into that were, I was very much a button down and like that type of person. But like fun button downs, nerdy button downs, like things like that. But I always had a little bit of a dapper edge to me. and then unfortunately desk job and everything else and life and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't really easily do that without spending a whole ton of money on a whole new wardrobe. So my characters tend to skew a little bit that way, but I also tend to look at what they are. So like I played a dwarf druid named Yondude, who was very needy, I guess would be the best way to put him. His best friend was Kevin the Badger. And so like he lived outside and he had his friends and that was cool, but like showers, what are showers? He didn't care. His clothes are made out of like whatever elements he could find. Like half of his clothing were like leaves or like blankets of moss that he had found because he didn't have time for anything else. That's just what he wanted to do. And then I have other characters that are like, yeah, I'm wearing a 3-piece suit that's been like hand painted onto the set of plate mail armor. Like it's all over the place. So I try to custom build or tailor make my characters for whatever the situation or whatever their personality is. So, and unlike Matt, I don't always play barbarians. I'm all over the place with like what characters I want to play because I'm also one of those people that I get a wild hair in my brain. Like, you should play this. And then I immediately make like 10 characters for different systems that are this character archetype. And then I have to specific thing or a specific setup for them. Or like, I think and I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, but I feel very passionately about this. My favorite tabletop character that I played in recent years was a character that never was supposed to exist in the first place. I had guested for a one-shot. Well, not a one-shot, but I was supposed to be a one-shot to help a bunch of friends I was a special guest to help them fight an elder brain. And my character was always meant to die, except they loved having me around so much that they moved heaven and earth to save my character. Well, the character wasn't balanced at all, and he was fun and all. He was a naked halfling barbarian tank. But it wasn't something for long term. So I retired him, and instead I created Chell, who was a Sylvan elf raised by dwarves. And he looked very much like Elf Sam Elliott. And I went so far as to hire a character artist to produce the concept art for me. And if you go to my Blue Sky, you can actually see it. I posted it because I found it after digging through my old computer. And that is probably my favorite thing ever because it is this perfect blend of fantasy and Wild West. And I'm like, every time I look at character stuff, I'm like, that was just like the perfect meld. So yeah, so I custom build everything. So there you go. Oh, goodness. I don't know if we have time for another one because I talked way too much.
No, I monopolized a lot of this podcast, which seems to happen when we have Hearthstone news to talk about.
Yeah, but you know what? I think that's okay because at the end of the day, we don't get to talk about Hearthstone as much. So I'm really glad that you get to do that when you get the opportunity to. So that makes me happy when you get the chance to do that. But
why don't we do the very last question?
The very, very last one. Oh boy.
I knew Liz would want this one.
Great question.
Oh man. Mithriac asks, wow, the Hinterlands versus DA Inquisition Hinterlands. Liz.
I'm going to have to give this one to WoW, which may surprise listeners out there who know how I feel about Dragon Age and Dragon Age Inquisition, but really, the Hinterlands is the worst part about Dragon Age Inquisition. It's this massive, kind of generic fantasy zone that is just, it's kind of an introduction zone. It's the first zone you get to, except it is just way too big. It's bigger than an introductory zone needs to be. It's the least interesting content in the game, and I think a lot of gamers get to the Hinterlands and they feel like, oh, I have so much to do here. I need to complete this and this and this. And that prevents you from going on to more interesting stuff. And I think a lot of people who play Dragon Age Inquisition get stuck here and never finish the game. I know multiple people who have done this because you're like, oh, I have another quest. I need to finish that quest. Oh, I have another quest. I need to finish that quest. Oh, I have it. And you keep doing that. You never get to the good stuff. So I think WoW is the big winner here. Hinterlands in WoW is a vast zone, but there's a lot going on. And there are lots of sort of different environments and different creatures you encounter throughout the zone. And you got cool dwarves. You got griffins. It's great. So WoW is the big winner here.
All right, Phil?
Yeah, so I don't know much about the Inquisition hinterlands outside of Liz's definition of it, but I'm definitely also going to give it to WoW because it was one of the greatest zones in Classic when you were leveling, because you would walk into the hinterlands, and if you were Horde, you would sneak your way past the griffins roaming in the woods to get to the troll camp on the beach, and you would then fill your quest log with more quests than you could hold, and you would go fill them all out at once and turn them all in, and that is just one of the most satisfying feelings in WoW. Is going back to a quest hub and just seeing all those question marks, and you're like, yes, I'm going to gain a level. Like that, the Hinterlands was great for that. It also had really cool architecture because on the north side, yeah, it's got the dwarves. I've lost them, the Wildhammer dwarves over on that side. But then on the south side, you've got like weird Shadra worshipper troll architecture. Yeah, and so there's a lot of cool stuff going down there too, as long as you're not arachnophobia. In which case, it's got a lot of crab worshipping troll stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give this to WoW's version of the Hinterlands as well. It's kind of the good version of the DAI version, where it's like, oh, I've got more quests to complete. Oh, that's a good thing though.
I also give it to the WoW version. I remember the first time I got to go see it, which was in the closed beta of vanilla way back when, before they turned off the ability to tame griffins. And so like if you got there during that closed beta, you could tame griffins. And the reason that they disabled them, at least at the time, is they didn't know how to keep the damage scaling from going haywire when a player tamed it. So you would see hunters take these, go into PvP mode, and one-shot somebody by sending their pet in and never touch another button. But to Phil's point, there's a lot of really cool varied architecture. You start to see like how trolls and elves share some similarities, because you have the Quel'Danil Lodge up towards the north. The very far north, you have Saradane. Then at the south, you have whatchamacallit, the Altar of Zul, I think it was. And then to the west, you have Airy Peak. And you get to see how everything, like, it felt more like a living world than a lot of the other places in WoW at the time.
I was looking for the name of it. It's like that gigantic, like multi-level ziggurat at the south. It is the Altar of Zul.
Yeah. Listen, occasionally my brain functions. It is very rare.
Because that's where you made the Mallet of Zul'Farrak. Yeah,
it is.
All right.
And it's where it started planting the seeds of the Prophet Zul. So.
Yep. Of course, then they've also got that whole forest troll city down there, Jinta Allure, when we didn't see much about the forest trolls at the time. So that was cool.
And then you had the village off to the east, which was like the Raven Tusk, something or other.
Raven Tusk, yep.
Where you start to see like the beachcombing trolls and stuff like that. Like it was a really cool, vibrant area. So it gets the win for me. And also I kind of hated the one in Dragon Age Inquisition. So, that's where we're at.
Everyone did.
3-0 for WoW Hinterlands then. I think that pretty well settles that.
Even me, the lover of Dragon Age Inquisition, I gotta give it to WoW. I have to.
Well, even you have your limits, Liz. But I do think that's going to do it for us today, friends. Blizzard Watch is made possible due to the generous contributions at patreon.com/BlizzardWatch. Your continued support means that this podcast sighting community is able to thrive and grow. Blizzard Watch supporters enjoy exclusive benefits like early access to our podcast, a better chance at having your question answered on our podcast or the queue, and an ads-free site experience. Liz, take us home.
Okay, thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you back here next week.